before we move on to record, I do want to just hear about the morning when all the CMA nominations came out.
I'm so disassociated when I get home that I rarely know what's going on. So like my phone just blew up, and and I was working on my place and getting stuff done. I think we had roped that morning, worked some horses, and I was like, man, who died? Like, what happened?
It seems like it should be bad news.
Did COVID hit again? You know, like with my phone, I've got 47 text messages. And then I start opening it, and it's all the balloons and the confetti. Congratulations. And I called Brandy, and I was like, what am I being congratulated for? She's like, you just got nominated for 5 CMAs. I was like, oh, sweet. What are they? You know what I mean? Like,
Male vocalist of the year, album of the year, single of the year, music video of the year. Damn.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
You know, the two that I'm the most proud of are for the songs, you know, Dirt Cheap and The Painter, but that goes to the writers. And that award doesn't go to me, but like I always wanted to be a songwriter. And so like that's the coolest award ever. Like when you're getting to help songwriters do their thing, like I get to be the vessel kind of. It's really cool.
I love that. I love the way you framed that in both of those songs too. I think it's just interesting. Like it's interesting that on an album like Leather, where Dirt Cheap and The Painter, those are both kind of those are like the serious contenders, right?
Yeah.
And it's just cool that both of them end up getting to have a moment.
I try to take a very athletic standpoint to what I do. So like if you want like to be the best quarterback, like I want to approach this like Tom Brady, I want to approach this like Conor McGregor or Michael Jordan. Like when we're in the game, I'm here to win.
Yeah.
And I'm here to be the best, and I'm here to dominate. Now, get outside the game. I love our country music family, and there's nothing I wouldn't do for any one of my friends. And when they win an award over me, I'm genuinely happy. Like really, I'm like, heck yeah, she won. Or heck yeah, he won, you know. But when we're in the game on stage, I'm here to be the best. And when it comes to putting a record together or picking the songs, like I'm here to try to clear all the air. Like, I don't know, because I want to be around forever.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of level of competitiveness speaks to me personally, but also, I mean, hard to not connect it to your past as a rodeo guy too.
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with it. And I still, you know, I'm still roping and rodeoing and doing all that. And sometimes I win and sometimes I just get my ass kicked.
Wait, okay, so can you explain? I'm obviously like, I'm a Nashville girl, so I'm a city girl, but I'm like, you know, Nashville is Nashville, so it is,
right.
It's country and city. So, but I didn't grow up around any of these kinds of sports. You're still actively competing?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, like that. I won this buckle this year.
What?
Yeah.
What does it say?
Brazos Valley Classic Champion.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's team roping. It's
what is that?
So you got one guy that comes out and the steer is released, and there's two horses, two guys, and you have one guy catches the head on the horns, turns him, and one guy catches the feet. Whoever does that the fastest wins. And usually it's like a 4-steer average of what your time is. And it's pretty competitive. And the reason why I like it so much is because it's 5 minds. It's this guy and his horse, this guy and his horse, and then there's a steer. Mm-hmm. And there's so many variables right there. So when it does work and you win a buckle or you win a little paycheck, it's like everything was perfect that day. And then you have days where it's like the header where you catch every steer and then every single heeler misses. And you call your wife, and she's like, how did you rope? And I'm like, I roped great.
Yeah.
But I didn't win anything.
That's hard, too.
You ought to ask my wife about team roper math.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
I'm like, hey, I won $30,000. She's like, no, you didn't. You were pulling a $150,000 trailer, pulling a $75,000 horse. You didn't win anything. I'm like, I know, but it was fun.
Yeah. Okay, there are 3 co-writes on this album. 3 places that you show up as a writer. I'm always a little bit intrigued, just like, oh, interesting. Like, this is what was coming out of your brain.
Yeah.
What the hell is going on in Georgia Peaches?
Oh.
Like, I have tried to I think I finally discerned this story, but I'm like, this is fascinating.
It was an accident. Okay, so a friend of mine who will remain nameless, Randy Mayer.
Send the cops.
Yeah. Brings us this jug of it's brass line copper steel, sure enough, Georgia moonshine, but it's got peaches in it, and it's dangerous because it's so good and it's so sweet. But if you drink about that much of it, you're going to be in a bind. So after a show one night, we were in Georgia and started drinking these peaches. Me and my guitar player Jake Mears, my band leader and fiddle player Jody Bartula, were sitting on the bus, and we all get to we get pulling on this jug of these peaches. And we had our guitars out and stuff, and I just said, Georgia peaches, they'll tear you all to pieces once you run them through that copper line. And I'm sitting there playing it, and Jake's kind of playing on his banjo, and I looked around, I was like, and they're burning down the county, still ain't nobody found me, looking for that man that's been running shine. And it just kind of, the story just fell out.
I love it.
I had no idea where that story was going. And my wife goes, Brandy says, did you put Jesus and methamphetamines in the same song? I was like, yeah.
Yeah, baby.
Well, because I was thinking, I was like, now it ain't no big deal. But I mean, 30, 40 years ago or more, running moonshine was a bad deal, right? Nobody cares now.
Yeah.
And it's not a big deal. Why? Well, thanks to those methamphetamines, nobody's worried about the moonshine.
Yeah.
And it was like, the story fell out.
Fun. Okay, then we go from Georgia Peaches, which is an absolute great time, to the doozy that is I Wish It Was You.
So Michael Hardy sends me this song, and the demo was like, you remember the song Hey There Delilah? That's what it was like. Should have left that last one on the bar.
That's what the demo sounded like?
And I was so enthralled with the lyrics, but my deal was, this guy in this song is miserable. He screwed his life up. There's no chance of getting her back, and he's drowning in a bottle, and he's going, hey, I did it. I wished it was you. Sorry. I screwed up.
I was drunk,
and I wished it was you. And so I picked up my guitar, and I was like, I just want, this guy's sad. It needs to sound sad. The Grand Tour by George Jones is sad. He Stopped Loving Her Today is sad. And so I tried to paint melodically this guy to be what he is. It's Merle Haggard, misery, and gin. And whenever Hardy and his co-writer came by the studio, they were like, where did you get this from? I was like, well, the guy y'all wrote about was really messed up. This needed to sound sad. It needed to feel that way. So that's where that came from.
Okay. I got the chance to hear, I just randomly went to a writer's round at the Bluebird, which I'm so cynical anymore. I hardly get to do.
Yeah.
And Kelleigh Archer was there. And she performed. It was the week after I'm Gonna Love You with Carrie Underwood came out. And I've been saying, this is song of the year. This is a major song.
I hope you're right. Y'all heard it here first.
Y'all have to be saying it too. Y'all have to be thinking it. This is a massive, massive song.
I think so too.
And she's telling the story about them writing it. And it was just like, what's a boring title that we could just write the shit out of?
I'm Gonna Love You.
Like, I'm Gonna Love You.
Yeah.
And then they just wrote it. They wrote the shit out of it.
I think it's amazing because it's so simple.
Yes.
This is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, but I'm going to love you. And then this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and I'm going to love you. It's like, but that's kind of the basis of like marriage. Like, it's just so simple.
Yeah.
Like we overthink relationships. We overthink marriages and all this stuff. But it's like, dude, no matter what happens, I'm going to love you. And I think it's beautiful.
And the way that hook melodically,
the melody is,
I'm gonna
I don't know whether
stop it.
that was Kelleigh or whether that was Travis, but that's the coolest melody ever.
So it sounds like this song had been in your orbit for a second.
Okay, so my story on this song is Travis had played me this song when we were out doing some shows together, and I was like, I'm in love with this song. Like, please let me have this song. And this was when I was cutting Human. So Universal says this is going to be a single on Travis's record, and I never heard of it again. Unbeknownst to me, Travis is not a single, so he pitches it to Carrie. Goes in Carrie's pile, doesn't make Carrie's cut, so it goes back out, right? And Travis had even talked about maybe him doing it as a duet with Carrie. Still, I don't know this. I'm completely oblivious to this. So when we come around to Leather, I'm like, what was that song that Travis pitched me that one time that like him and Kelleigh Archer wrote? It's like, I'm gonna love you. So we get it. And as soon as I hear it, I go, Carrie. It's Carrie Underwood. Well, but what if we can't get Carrie? What about her or what about her? And I'm like, that's great. It has to be Carrie Underwood or I'm not cutting the song. So then whenever I finally talked to Carrie, she's like, well, everything happens for a reason. Like, this is the second time this song has been put in front of me. Like, really? So I hear her version of the story.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, it was just meant to be.
The other freaky thing about this song is y'all should not sound that good together.
It's really weird.
It's like kin harmony.
I said this in an interview earlier because I grew up singing with my parents. We called it family harmony.
Yes.
Like, so Jake and Jody, we've all been singing together for over a decade. We have family harmony. I can do something completely different and they just jump to me. They already know.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because Carrie said 2 things I don't do is love songs and low register. So like when we were tracking it, I called her and we were listening. She was listening, and I'm like, "Do we need to go a step up? Do we need to go a step down as far as key? Are you good with the production, tempo, and all this?" And so she kind of signed off on it, and I was like, "All right, cool." Then when we got into sing it, I'd already done my vocals. So she comes in the studio, she does her vocals, and when we got to the end of it,
Are you there?
yeah. I don't miss a beat in the studio. Like I'm very, very, very hands in the mud on this stuff. Like I have my fingers on all of it.
Yeah.
And it just like, I don't know what it wasn't a look of like disappointment on her face, but it was just like this. It was like, I'm like, what do you not liking? Like, what's wrong with it? Because I'm kind of like,
Oh gosh.
it didn't have the
I'd
boom.
be panicking.
It didn't have, well, and I'm sitting there going like, we're both professionals, and I'm sitting there like, for me, it doesn't have that thing either. And I'm like, I don't know, she's like, what if we just sing it live? I'm like, that's a great idea.
To each other.
Yeah. So we went in opposite sides of the glass, just like you and I are sitting, and we sang it live, and that's what's on the record. That's what you're hearing is one take
Stop
live.
it.
I swear to God. But the cool part is
Now
whenever
I'm
we're
gonna
sitting
wait.
there singing, I could see her when she's going to breathe, and she's watching me for what. So that part in the bridge, that that was completely ad-libbed.
Stop it.
But we're sitting there being able to look at each other and going, "You're going to go? All right, I'm going to go with you."
Yeah.
And it was so organic, and it was like singing in church.
Yeah.
And afterwards, I was like, now that was it. Like, that was the take. That's the one.
So here's the thing that makes sense to me. But when I hear this performance, it is so masterfully precise. It just doesn't even feel like it could be a live vocal. Like, that's crazy.
I mean, obviously, in the studio, there's going to be some, some mic pops that they edit, or like there was an S that
Teeny
wasn't
little
in time.
edits.
Yeah.
But no, that's nuts.
But it was crazy. And we did it the one time. I was like, I'm pretty sure we just got what we needed. And Trent Willman and Jack Clark are sitting there going,
yeah, we got it.
yes, like, just get out of there. You're fired. Get out of the booth.
I love it so much.
But, like afterwards, I wanted to make sure she was happy with it. And she's like, dude, it's your song. Like, of course I'm happy with it. And I think this song for me, it's just one of my favorite songs. I get to show off a little bit. I think for her, we hear a different side of Carrie's vocal that is so freaking, it's my favorite side of her vocal. That sultry Aretha Franklin thing.
It's like, I see it almost like it's like the caramel part of her tone, if
yes,
that makes sense. And it's a little warmer and a little darker than like,
but still just as precise and just as controlled.
Yeah, beautiful.
I thought it was great. And she's been so gracious, like even through the creation of the music video, worked with me we sat in that studio for 12 hours and never weakened. Did everything with a smile on her face, and I was like,
she's a pro.
I'm like, dude, thank you. Like, you didn't have to do that,
Well, I would assume that their team sees this as a big song too. I mean,
think
it's
so
not just a
too.
favor to a buddy. This is,
right.
And I know there's a lot of mutual respect
Well, let's
there,
be
but
clear,
this is a big song.
Carrie and I are not, and before this, we're not like besties and all that stuff. Like, but we've known each other. I remember the night we met at an award show. I think it was 2022. And I went to the hotel room, and because we sat next to each other, and I told my wife, I was like, she was like really nice.
She's
she said,
so
yeah.
kind.
I was like,
such a sweet
just seemed like
person.
such a cool person, And I still haven't gotten to meet her husband yet, but apparently we have a lot in common. And I'd like to go hunting if you're watching this.
Yeah. Let's make it happen.
If you're listening, I'd like to go hunting. But it was one of those things that we kind of really developed our friendship over this song, which I think is very special too. That's kind of how it happened for me and Reba too. And now
so sweet.
Reba's one of my besties.
The album closes on the Mustang. This is another one of the one of your writes. This is one of those songs that, it's just deep.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and everybody is not going to feel this way about a fence, right?
Right.
But I happen to think that why don't you set up with the song?
I wanted to hear your take on that.
I was just going to say that inside, having full freedom inside of a boundary is a really beautiful thing. And it provides safety. And like, I think it's one of the ways that God cares for us. I remember on my wedding day, our pastor from college is who married us, and he said, "You're about to watch two people do the riskiest and safest thing in the world."
That's a great way to. Wow.
And so obviously,
That's
I mean,
a great way to put it.
I interpret this song as kind of that moment, the come to Jesus moment.
Okay.
But I'd like to hear what it's about for you.
So Wes Bayless, who is the lead singer of the Steelwoods, which is one of my favorite bands ever. So he sent this song to me, and it was at a time. Let me say this first. I am not a perfect person. If you back me in a corner, I will fight my way out. I have no problem telling you what's on my mind, and sometimes I have to apologize for the things I say. You know, I like a good cocktail. I'm not a preacher, okay? But I had reached a point in my life as just a man, but you know, as a husband as well, where I feel like I'd hit rock bottom, where I'm like, I'm looking in the mirror and I really don't like what I'm seeing. Mm-hmm. You know, like, how do I change the way I think? How do I change my habits? How do I change my triggers that go back to that person that I don't want to be? You know, because when I was a young man, I was pretty wild. Like, and I know people are going to be like, "What?" when I say this, but very, very well could have wound up in prison. Pretty wild cat, and nobody could tell me anything. So I was questioning a lot of things about myself, and felt like if I talked to God, like, I'm not worthy anyway. He's probably not listening anyway. You know, who would want to listen to me? And then I felt like a hypocrite too, because you get on stage and everybody's like, "Oh my God, Cody Johnson, you're so awesome!" Like, dude, if you only really knew, you know, the mental stuff and the stuff that's going on. And so I was in this funk, man. And Wes sends me this song, and at 30, I'm 37 now, but at 36, it clicked, because I own horses. This metaphor of this Mustang, you see a Mustang running wild and free across the prairie. Well, he has to worry about predators. He has to worry about his own safety, his own health. He has to worry about all that. And it's all about him, and he's got to worry about all this stuff to keep himself. But my horses on my place that are inside that fence have the best food. They have the cleanest water. They have the cleanest stalls. They get brushed. They get exercised. They get corrected too. Mm-hmm. So I've got a certain horse that every now and then he wants to really run off. I've got a certain bit. You know, the bit is what goes in their mouth. Mm-hmm. It's pretty aggressive. And I only break that out whenever he decides he wants to go do too much. And when I put that bit in his mouth and I give him one of these, it's ouch. Okay, that hurt. I'm going to stop. Yeah. Then you take that bit out and you put the soft bit back in his mouth and say, okay, now that you're listening. And it clicked. It clicked for me that God does that with us. You know, for me, for a lot of years, he just let me run off. Fine, you want to run? Run. See how you do on your own. And then, and you're like, ow, that hurt. Like, why am I going through all this stuff? Because I'm trying to save you. I'm trying to put you in this fence where you'll be safe and you'll be free. Once you're in this fence, you're free. There's a freedom to it. And when that metaphor clicked to me, I called Wes and I was like, hey, why'd you send me this? He's like, man, I just had you on my mind, and you know, and just I really felt like you would relate to this song. And I'm like, please let me have it. And he was kind enough to make me a writer on it, because I changed a few things here and there, but I'm not really a writer on it. All the credit goes to Wes, but the story in this song was just, it changed my life for sure.